a week one review, week two preview for college football. Pretty good week one. Went somewhat how I thought it might go. A couple surprises here and there, but pretty, just glad college football's back. Really excited about it. And just there's a lot of bad games this week. But even someone like me, I like going back in here and reviewing them. It's kind of nice too because the games aren't that long. Penn State will be up 28-0 by the end of the first, so you just watch the first quarter. You get like a little bit of a. What I like is kind of like a little bit of a sample of what I'm going to be seeing, on the year. You can't judge them too crazily. You can't give them too much credit because they're playing bad teams. But it's just fun to kind of see how they fare. What players are where. See if you see any new players in any positions. That's what I like to do. So I've watched most every game of the pretty good teams, and then I watched the good games, the big games this weekend, with teams that were both pretty good. But what I'll say about last weekend, themes that I saw, teams starting slow and then picking it up in the second half, and teams I'm saying that we saw that on Thursday with Ohio State against Indiana. They started slow, came back later. Another one. On that day on Friday was Wisconsin. They started slow with Utah State, and they came out in the second half, played really good. Washington started slow with Rutgers and came out in the second half, played pretty good. And on Saturday, we saw a couple of games. I had the Iowa-Wyoming game as kind of an upset. But Kurt Herbstreit was right. He said that, Iowa would probably win the game in the trenches, and they definitely won the game in the trenches, and that was the difference in the game. Wyoming couldn't really get any points going. And Iowa scored just enough points, 24-3. Another early game on that day, Missouri and Missouri State, real barn burner. It was like 41-35. Real close to halftime. So Missouri's defense, a little bit suspect, giving up a lot of rushing yards, a lot of yards to a Missouri State and FCS school. But Missouri's offense, obviously they're playing a really bad team, but their offense looked really good. Really fast receivers. I really like their quarterback, Drew Lock. Those are things that I already knew. But the defense is going to be the question for them. And they got a big game next week. Maryland and Texas, real surprise game. I've been real high on Texas this year. It really had me there, sitting there going, what is going on? The thing that was biggest to me was, I thought Texas would at least come out with this mentality of, we're bigger, we're better, we know we're more athletic than these kids, and come out and really play. But they played just the way they did when they played under Strong, almost like they're scared, almost like, oh, if we don't win this game, the fans are going to be pissed off. Like, it's almost like they're thinking more about what happens when we lose instead of we need to win. But Maryland started slow. They threw a pick to start the game off. They could have laid down at that point. They scored 21 straight at that point, blocked the kick. The big thing, the theme of the week for me was special teams. Depending on where your special teams was at was kind of how you played. In the closer games, special teams was what was the big kicker. Special teams is what decided a lot of the close games. And that's just how it is at the first of the year when these teams, aren't offensively sounded as well or defensively sounded as well. The special teams is going to be what takes over and is what is the big kicker on who wins the game or not. And I'll give you some examples. The Maryland-Texas game, special teams was all over the place. Texas had a blocked field goal, a missed field goal. They fumbled a kickoff. They returned a punt. They had things that they blocked the punt. I think I already said that. They had good things that happened for them. But at the same time, bad things happened. Like I said, missed the field goal. They got a field goal blocked and returned. They were also returned a field goal. So they kind of canceled that out. But they were down 27-7 and they fumbled the kickoff. It was ugly. It was one of the most ugly things I've seen out of Texas football. Like Texas football to have such a high standard and stuff like that. It was ugly. To see the way they were playing. They came back in the second half. They were down by 3, and then the quarterback for Maryland got hurt. Everything was going Texas's way in the second half, and they still couldn't get on top of it. They still couldn't get the game finished. I was calling the whole game for, Boucher to be taken out, for them to put Ellinger in. I like Ellinger better than Boucher. I'm going to go ahead and say that. And they did not run the ball enough. They didn't run the ball at all. Like, they have two huge backs in Chris Warren and Kyle Porter, and they didn't run them at all. They ran Boucher more than they ran them. They went forward on multiple fourth downs, and they ran just ugly plays, little rollouts where you have to throw the ball on that side of the field, and then all their routes are covered, or he chunks it deep. I did not like the game from Texas. It seemed as if another game in the Charlie Strong era, and that was something that I thought would change coming out of this game. I thought, we're done with the Charlie Strong era. We're going to have a new energy. We're going to have we're going to knock Maryland out of the water. That was the mindset. You look at magazines, why is Maryland scheduling this game? They're not talented enough to take on a team like Texas. They just came into Austin and beat one of the most prestigious college football teams of all time. And where Texas is at right now is an absolute disgrace. And like I said earlier, you're at the biggest question you're asking yourself now: why did we run Mack Brown out of town? Why? Just because he was old and we were tired of looking at him? Like, I don't know. Like, these guys that we have brought in, I know first game, Todd Herman will probably get it together. But I'm just saying, this did not look good. This does not look strides better. He had a whole offseason, and this doesn't look strides better. His special teams, what was an issue to me, was how bad his special teams were. And yes, he had good things happen for his special teams, but at the same time, the bad things outweighed the good things. And then the offensive line. We're in fucking Texas. Texas has some of the biggest offensive linemen out there. And you're fucking telling me you couldn't go out and you can't find some offensive linemen. Like, the offensive line was atrocious. And maybe that's why we didn't run the ball, is because the offensive line was atrocious. I had to vent on that one for there. Clemson, Penn State, both big wins. Cal, North Carolina, this was a game I picked North Carolina to win. I really thought North Carolina would probably handle them. And, Cal, with their new quarterback, new offensive system, played really good and won the game. And they were actually up by about 11 later. So it ended up winning by 5, but they were up by a good amount. Miami handled Bethlehem Cookman. Pitt and Youngstown State, I said this could be a good game. Pitt was up 21-0. Youngstown State came back 21-21. Pittsburgh field goal kicker missed 2 field goals in the fourth quarter to seal it. One to win it at the very end. They went to overtime. Pitt was able to get the win. Pitt's got a big game next week. Oregon State, man, I had Oregon State going like 6-6 at the first of the year. They shit a brick against Colorado State, and they almost lost to Portland State this week. They got Minnesota next week. And I think they'll probably lose that one. As we go down the list, Oklahoma they handled, Notre Dame they handled. Northwestern had a tough game with Nevada, but they ended up coming out on top. Slow start, they finished strong. Boise and Troy was kind of somewhat of a boring game. Something I did see from Boise State, I think his name is Zach Cozart. He's a transfer from Kansas. He actually got to get some playing time in this game with Ripken at quarterback also. I didn't know that he went there. But they handled Troy. Troy obviously wasn't the better team in Boise. It's tough to play in Boise. So that was a tough game. Some other games to think. South Florida has continued to be unimpressive. They really started slow against San Jose State last week. This week they were in a game 17-17 with Stony Brook, an FCS school. Sometimes the FCS schools that play these teams pretty good are usually pretty good. I have not heard of Stony Brook ever being good. And then so someone like USC, maybe they were kind of thinking about Stanford next week. And they had a close game with Western Michigan. I really thought Western Michigan was going to struggle a lot this year, definitely in their first game. No PJ Fleck, a lot of new pieces on offense. I thought they would struggle. They played really well. It was a 31-35 game pretty late before USC was able to pull away. Some other games, Georgia lost their quarterback, Jacob Eason. We don't know how long he's out. It's not anything real serious. I see him being out a couple of weeks. I think his name's Jacob Fromm. He's a freshman. He's from Georgia. And he actually played a pretty good game. They had scored 0 points when Easton came out. I think it was Easton's first or second series when he got hurt. And Fromm played pretty good. I think Fromm can handle the load for a while, but I do see Easton coming back and being the starter at one point, once SEC action probably starts. Liberty and Baylor, biggest upset of the week. Baylor, Matt Rule's first game. They went ahead and started Anu Solomon, which I thought they would. And Liberty was able to come out on top. Liberty's quarterback was the real difference here. His name was Stephen Calvert. He threw for 447 yards and 3 touchdowns. He just made a lot of big plays, a lot of big throws whenever he needed to make the throws. It was a real good game. Baylor was right there towards the end, but it was one of those games, whoever had the ball last, Liberty had the ball last. They went down and they scored. Some other games from the week, Kansas State, they have the best special teams in all college football, but their special teams was top notch. They returned a punt. They almost returned a kick. They're just awesome special teams wise. Their setup, the way that they would return kicks is different than other people return kicks. They'd have 2 back there on the punts, which is something that you don't see that often anymore. I really like Kansas State on special teams. Bill Snyder, he's a special teams coach. His son is a special teams coach. It's a big deal to them. I like it. It's going to win them some games this year. Auburn, Stidham looked pretty good. He looked all right. The biggest thing about Auburn, though, is it's not that Stidham has to be some, out of nowhere star. The thing about Auburn, and the thing that has pissed me off about Auburn the last couple of years so much, is all Auburn needs is a manager, is a guy to be able to read the read option and throw short passes. And they hadn't had that in 2 or 3 years. Sean White was not the guy. He couldn't handle it. But and that's the thing that sucks. Auburn's offense doesn't need a top-notch quarterback. It just needs someone to not make mistakes, be able to read option and throw short passes. And I trust Stidham. I think this is finally a guy that can do that. Louisville, Purdue. This was actually a pretty good game. I really thought Louisville would kind of blow them out of the water. And they probably would have 2 fumbles by running backs in the red zone for Louisville. So that took 14 points away. And they were in the game the whole time. They were just a little bit down the whole time. This is a game they probably would have handled pretty easily if they could have got out of that, but if they could have scored on a couple of those possessions. But Purdue was right there. Purdue had the ball late and threw a pick late. But Lamar Jackson looked awesome. But then again, I see why people aren't that high on Louisville this year, because he's got so many question marks around him that I really don't know what's going to happen with Louisville this year, because all the question marks around Lamar Jackson. Okay, so some other games that I can think of. LSU destroyed BYU. I thought it would be a little bit closer. I thought LSU's defense would play really good. I thought it'd be more about LSU's offense. LSU is going to run the ball a lot. They're going to be comfortable running the ball, but then they're going to meet Alabama one day, and then they're not going to know how to throw the ball just like every year. So we'll see how they do. It's going to be more about their defense. Defense looks good, obviously. BYU's offense isn't that crazy good, though. I will say that. Oregon took care of business. Obviously, Oregon's one of my top teams, not top teams, but they're in my top 25. They're at the bottom of it. They had a good week. They won 77-21. They were playing Southern Utah, though. Washington State, a team that just got into my top 25. They're at the 25 spot. They won 31-0 on Montana State. They look pretty good. A lot of throws to the running back, a lot of short passes. Luke Falk's a good game manager, and they look like if they can not turn the ball over, they look like they can be a pretty good team. They've got a better defense this year. Always with Mike Leach, it's always that he's got a real good offense with a shitty defense. And this year is one of the first years that I've noticed he's got a good defense. I like his defense this year. And then to talk about the good, basically, I saved the good games for last. The best games of the day. So South Carolina, NC State. So what the difference in this game was, the opening kickoff was returned by South Carolina by Deebo Samuel. Deebo Samuel had a huge game. I think he had 3 touchdowns altogether. He was huge for South Carolina. I think offensively, NC State was probably more impressive. I really like their two running backs, Hines and Samuel. Samuels is really good out of the backfield catching the ball. They moved the ball very well. I think he threw for I think Finley threw for 400 yards. They had a good game plan and they played really well. They had the ball at the end of the game. They had a chance to win it and they just ran out of time. South Carolina, surprises for South Carolina. I really liked their quarterback, Jake Bentley. His dad's a running backs coach. He can run a little bit. He's a white boy. He can run a little bit, but doesn't try to run too much. He can throw the ball pretty well. It's going to be more about South Carolina's defense. Can South Carolina's defense give their offense a chance? That's going to be the more question this year for them. Some other games, Michigan, Florida. Now, don't let the sample size of Florida, be your prediction for them, how they're going to finish in the SEC. First game for Felipe Franks, and they did that stupid shit that they always do where they play two quarterbacks, Malik Zaire, and then they have Felipe Franks, and nobody can get a rhythm, and you're playing a good-ass Michigan defense who has a really good scheme. It just doesn't work. You got to have one guy. I mean, I understand when you're trying to figure out who your guy is going to be, but this is something that needs to be figured out in camp. I know Malik came in late, but it's just hard for me to come into a game in the second half and start playing. Or where's the confidence in your quarterback when you take him out, 2 series after, 2 series into the game, and then you're playing this other guy for 2 series, and then you're going to the other guy. I don't like it. I've never liked it, but they did it and it didn't work. Florida was winning this game pretty handily. They're up, I think, 17-10. And they had 2 defensive touchdowns back to back. Michigan's offense wasn't playing good. Florida's offense wasn't playing good. But then Florida starts to make turnovers, and then Michigan takes over. And then Florida didn't do anything offensively the whole game. They scored a field goal on their first possession, and they didn't score an offensive touchdown after that. The 2 pick sixes that they got off of Wilton Speet was the only points that they scored touchdown-wise. Michigan looked good. Michigan's young. Like I said, I thought they'd win this game. The bigger storyline is Jordan Scarlett wasn't playing. That's Florida's running back, and Antonio Callaway wasn't playing either. That's their starting wide receiver. Starting one running back and starting wide receiver weren't playing. Not a good sample size to look at Florida. We'll see how Florida plays later in the year. They're going to be one of those teams for the SEC East at the end of the year. Some other games. Obviously, the Alabama-Florida State game, it went exactly how I thought it would go. Close game at first. You're sitting here thinking, ooh, could Alabama win? Or ooh, could Alabama lose? It's a pretty close game. And then, and I was telling me and my cousin were watching the game, and I said, whoever has the first turnover is going to lose this game. Knowing when Florida State turns the ball over, this is going to start to really snowball. And that's what happens on these games all the time. Alabama just snowballs teams. So they were up 10-7. In the second quarter, and in the third quarter, they got that field goal, and then Francois threw the pick, and then they went up 21-7, and then Francois threw another pick, I think, right then or pretty soon after that, and it was over at that point. Francois did get hurt. It did look bad. It looked like his knee, it looked like it tore. And then when he had the air cast on, I knew he was done for the year. So I've gotten pretty good at realizing, okay, how serious the injury is. But yeah, Francois, he's done for the year. I knew he was done for the year once I saw the injury, once I saw the air cast. So that kind of throws a wrench in it. We knew Florida State was going to lose the game. That was not a surprise to me. I thought Florida State would lose the game pretty handily. The big surprise to me is we didn't know Florida State was going to lose Francois for the rest of the year. How will that affect them? Some other things that I did see, I saw Cam Ayers for Florida State. He looks very good. He's a little shit talker, looks like. Every time he touched the ball, he was talking shit to Alabama players. Really like him. Number 1 running back, ESPN 300. Some other guys. So Florida State's quarterback, they brought in 6'5", 185 freshman. James Blackman was the guy that came in for Francois. He threw one pass, I think, and he didn't complete it. So didn't get to see a lot of him, but he's supposed to be the guy. I know Florida State plays Miami in 2 weeks. This was a game that I had Florida State winning, and I don't know if I have Florida State winning now without Francois. It's a team that they have weapons on offense. They always have weapons, but they had this piece right here that could get the ball to these weapons. Now I don't know if Blackman's that guy that can get that. Other things that I saw from that game, Nigel. Let me see I think his name's Nigel Harris. So this kid looked huge. So he wasn't even like one of the top 3 guys on the depth chart for Alabama. But he's going to be a force to be reckoned with this year. Najee Harris, 6'2", 227 back. He was number 22. They said that he looked bigger than Derrick Henry standing next to Derrick Henry. So I see a lot from him. You know, Scarborough's going to be knocking the shit out of people like he was in the first game. Harris will be running around people like he did in the first game. And then if you go to Sunday, talk about Sunday here for a minute. UCLA, epic comeback on A&M. I didn't really see it coming. I picked UCLA to win the game, you know, at home and stuff. A&M basically just fell apart in the second half. Kellen Munn was a good runner, but he couldn't throw the ball. Starkel was a little bit of a better thrower. The biggest thing, though, was the way this game started. UCLA wasn't playing good, and they turned the ball over twice inside their 20. So they fumbled twice inside their 20, gave up 10 points off of that, and then A&M had the momentum. They're up 24-3, and it was one of those things like, yeah, it's 24-3, and UCLA is losing, but what did A&M really do to blow this out of the water? You know, this is actually a closer game than you thought. And then they scored again, and it was like 40. It became 44-10, and you're like, all right, this is basically over. And that's when they started coming back, 17-44. Then it looked like it was supposed to be a pick, went right through the defender's hands into the UCLA guy's hands, and they caught another touchdown, and then another touchdown, and then A&M misses a field goal. UCLA goes back down, scores another touchdown, and then A&M gets the ball back, and they look done. They look shell-shocked. A 3-and-out. They throw on 2nd and 8 instead of running the ball. And then UCLA drives down the field. Rosen wasn't going to be stopped. You could see it in his eyes. Like, he was scoring. He knew if he got the ball back, he was scoring on that last drive. They won 45-44. Great game. Another great game, Virginia Tech, West Virginia. I think a star in the making is this Josh Jackson. Real good read option guy. He had a real good game. Him and Will Grier were playing against each other. Will Grier is quarterback for West Virginia. I was not high on West Virginia at all going into the year. I really do like this West Virginia team now. I almost wanted to put them in my top 25 after the game. You know, they lost a close game to a good Virginia Tech team, good defensive Virginia Tech team. I knew this game was going to go down to the wire. I thought Virginia Tech would win like they did. But it spoke loud to me how West Virginia played in this game. I really like how West Virginia played. And, you know, I have them higher on my list than I did before this game. I think they're going to be a pretty good team. I think they'll win the next 3 games. They got some cupcakes the next 3 games. They got a bye week, and then they got a big game against TCU at TCU. So I think that's going to be the next game. I think that's October 7th. So West Virginia fans, look for that one. But yeah, check out Panera Sports for any fantasy football guide and stuff like that.